Hey guys, how's it going? Ricky Tuid Da Vinci. Thank you so much for joining us on a live stream. It's been way too long, I know, but we've been hard at work on a couple of really cool announcements that I wanted to chat to all of you guys about, and eventually lead into the start of a new podcast that we're starting. This comes, I guess we can start with that. We'll just start. Actually, I'll give everybody a couple minutes to join and things and see how everybody's doing. I see Mark is already on. What's up, Mark? How's it going? Good that you can make it here today. Really appreciate it. Yeah, we've been hard at work. We've been, trying to think about what comes next. I think 7 years into this YouTube journey, this last year's been kind of a kind of a transitional period. I feel like it's time to kind of reevaluate things and think about what comes next and lessons learned and all the little things. Raymond is here. What's up, Raymond? I was just chatting with Raymond via email recently. Yeah, so we've been doing this for a long time and it's a lot of work and we love it. This is something that we're just so blessed to be able to do, to have you guys watch, to have this platform to chat with all of you. And I think the big takeaway is one thing I've always struggled with is there are certain topics that I kind of want to cover, but our current machinery, the mechanism of making a video is intense, as you can imagine. We spend 2, 3 days on writing and research, right? And then it goes into filming, which takes a couple of hours. And then it goes into video editing, which takes 3 days probably. So any decision that I make requires like a week of commitment from not just me either, right? So me and my head researcher, his name's Israel. He's a chemistry professor. And then the video team is largely Juan, who we talk about all the time. So it's like three people's efforts for a week. So it's heavy handed. And over the years, we've tried to figure out what the best way to do it would be. I kind of had the idea of maybe another channel to have this other format on, but we're not going to. We're going to just have one channel. Just one channel is hard enough for us to manage, and we're going to try our very best to just manage one channel and see how it goes. Um, there's 42 of you, 45. We'll give it another minute before I really get started, but yeah, so what we've decided to do is we're going to have a podcast, which is something my wife has been telling me to do for a long time. And the goal will be to have really great guests, people that you guys are going to love hearing from, like industry experts, people who work at some of these companies or are involved, thought leaders. And over the course of the last couple of years, I've gotten to meet so many cool people that we can try to fill out a little roster and see who's available for the podcast. But some of the episodes might just be me. It might just be me talking. So it'll be between one and guests, I guess you can say. But at least always one. That I can guarantee. And this way, we can continue to do our focus is going to be on on-site stuff, which is its own can of worms. It takes a lot of money to travel. It takes time for coordination, emails back and forth, setting up times with companies. You probably noticed we've had more on-site stuff lately, and we're going to keep doing that. And Juan is going to keep focusing on making what we call Netflix-worthy stuff. We want to make really cool stuff, showcasing really important engineering happening around the world, and bring it to you. That way, it's like you're in our back pocket, just taking it all in for yourselves. And then this podcast will be our way of covering more things quickly. My goal is going to be, I've got a new setup. I've got like a tablet that I can draw on. I've got a laptop, and I can make content almost near real time. So when we're done, we can just quickly edit in a couple of hours and upload to YouTube and not bother Juan. Because if I have to call Juan to do it, then our big, more ambitious projects get held up, and that's always been the challenge. So that's kind of the goal. The name of the podcast. Let's see if this works. All right, I'm gonna push. Let's see. Okay. The name of the podcast is At Odds. You want to show? Yeah, there you go. So the At Odds podcast is what we're gonna be calling it. And the reason is I've always felt like we're at odds. We're a society, a civilization, especially in this time of our existence. At times I feel like we're at odds, which is cool, right? Did you make it bigger? How'd you do that?
Yeah.
Juan's messing around.
Sorry, 1 second. If you make
Um,
it smaller, it just
oh, it
shrinks
just shrinks
nicely.
down.
Okay,
Nice.
that's cool.
That's cool. Okay, so yeah, forgive us. We're nerding out over some new software we've been messing with. Um, but if you think about what Tubit Da Vinci has always represented, it's always kind of been about making sense of stuff, right? Some of these things are complicated. Like whenever I meet with people, they'll have some kind of predetermined notion about something, and I'm not the kind of person to get mad or yell, or everyone is entitled to their own opinions. But I've always been like, well, think about it like this. You know, I, I had a conversation with somebody recently. They were talking about how during some outage or storm that they saw all these Teslas in line trying to charge at a supercharger station, and the very like next comment in some of these comments were, yeah, but the gas stations were just out of power or they had no gas, right? So gasoline is also pretty tumultuous and finicky. It takes a lot of logistics to keep that online. A fun fact that I learned recently is between 10 and 20% of, if we wanted to electrify every car, right? 10 to 20% of that power energy that we would need for every car to be an EV, we could get from just stopping all the oil production and purification, refinement operations around the world. That would get us like a fifth of the way there just by doing that. So there's interesting context, right? So I want to make sense of the world that can sometimes seem at odds. And that's the name of the podcast, and that's what we're going to do. But before we get into the episode, I just want to do a little bit of bookkeeping. So you guys have probably noticed that we're doing giveaways, right? So we get the incredible luxury pleasure to meet with companies who see that we have a platform like, hey, we want to, can you check out this product? Can you do this? And we have to be selective. We say no to a lot of companies, or we'll get products and we'll say, nah, you can have it back. We're not doing it. We don't like it enough. But occasionally some of these products rise to a level where we love them. We use them, we obsess about them, and we want to share them with you. You can know the products that we love when you see them in giveaways, right? So let me see if I can pull up our website. So I just want to go to tubitdavinci.com. Okay. So if you go to tubitdavinci.com, right here. So if you go to tubitdavinci.com, at the very beginning, you're going to see our current giveaways. Now, this one has expired because the time has passed. But this was for an Anker Solix C1000 and a 200-watt solar panel, a bundle worth about $900. And what's really cool about this particular giveaway was how many of you guys actually signed up. This was our most successful giveaway to date. We had 700 entries, hundreds and hundreds of people who signed up. And to sign up to do this, easy. It's free. All you have to do, you don't even have to become a member or pay $1 or anything. All you have to do is join our mailing list. And the reason why we do this is because we don't control anything about YouTube, right? So like if a lot of you guys are probably feeling, you guys probably aren't getting our notifications when videos go out. That's something that happens. If you miss one of our videos, you don't care, you're busy, and you don't watch the second one, YouTube will stop recommending us, right? So it makes it very clear to me that if I'm going to do this for a living, that, so Dimebag says, Anker doorbell cameras report back to the mothership. That's so interesting. We're literally working on a story about my recommendations for camera systems, which is completely different. Okay, we'll get to that. But when it comes to batteries and solar and stuff, we've been loving our system. We've had an Anker that we roll around for little parties out in the patio and stuff for over a year. Is that fair, one? We've taken it camping. I've taken it all over the place. So it's really cool. And it's a fantastic little product. And we did that giveaway because we installed a Anker system at mom and dad's house, and we love it. My parents they're older now, they're retired. They live on well water. So if their power goes out, their water goes out. Check our video on that on our channel. We were thrilled to install this thing, and I waited about 6 months for all the data to come up. And we were one of the first people to install their new system. It's called the Anker Solix X1. It's a whole home battery system, just like a Powerwall. And we saw all the firmware updates and stuff, and I gave them feedback. And the last couple of months, seeing all the updates coming in, their engineering team is all over it. It's been fantastic. So those are products we really recommend. And I guess we should start with the giveaway winner. Right? Let's do that. We use a system called Raffle Press. So it takes all of your guys' entries and kind of bundles it all together. And then when the time comes, we have a little button we can push, and it allows us to select a winner. We did this a little while ago, and the winner is Robert Elias. So Robert Elias, sorry, I didn't push it over. Yeah, so Robert Elias, congratulations. You won this giveaway. This is our third, I believe, and we will be reaching out to you. Like I've mentioned in the past, we will never give away we'll never ask for money or payment or anything. And the email will come from our domain. So watch for an email, Robert. Congratulations. We'll send you a giveaway. We'll send you instructions and we'll take care of all that and get that to you probably with the shipping delays with Thanksgiving. It'll probably reach you early December. So congratulations. Thank you guys for signing up. Super fun, super easy. Go to tubitdavinci.com. You can watch our videos on our site, see more in-depth write-ups, join giveaways, and just generally be a part of it all. Also, wanting to put that banner back up, on tubitdavinci.com is where our membership resides. So for all of our members, if you go to tubitdavinci.com when a video comes out and you log in, instead of seeing the YouTube video that has the sponsors and all the ads and everything else, you'll get a clean cut. You'll get a unique version from now on. This is something we've been wanting to do. It's been hard in the past with Patreon and all these little things. We got rid of all of it. We own it all. It's just tubitdavinci.com. That's where everything will live, okay? So just come in and you can see the videos. So when you see our videos on our channel, it'll be ad-free. Also, what Juan has been doing lately is he'll get a video that we've made and it'll be longer and he loves it. And I'm like, yeah, it's too long for YouTube, cut it. He'll take a snapshot at that point and make that video for our members. So if you want to see even more content, like better, more in-depth, more context, like a cut just for our fans, people who support us and want to see what we do, you'll see a unique cut on our website. There's no other place where that lives. And again, it's ad-free. And to get those ad-free cuts, any paid membership level starting at $2 a month will take care of it. There's no long-term commitments or anything else. And that your guys' money helps us support all that comes next. Speaking of what comes next, I think so this is just a jam-packed day of information. So first of all, giveaways. Join us, join the newsletter, right? The link is right there on the QR code. Join our newsletter, join us, giveaways. There's a lot of cool stuff. The next set of things is going to be EV tires, a brand new set of 4 tires that we will ship to you and we'll take care of everything. That'll be starting in December probably. So giveaways, website, all that stuff has been cooking and going well. Now, the next thing I want to talk to all of you guys about is the future of how we want to grow this company. I've hired a staff of some people, but new channel name. So no, there's no new channel. It's still Tubit Da Vinci. We'll have a podcast called the At Odds Podcast. It'll be on this channel. There's no new channels. One thing I've learned with all this new people that I've tried to bring on, I've been trying to build this team for what I want it to be. I want to make more content or whatever, but our views just haven't bared that. Like we're not able to sufficiently keep doing. We haven't found a formula to get the kind of views to be able to then go make more content, right? So I've been kind of thinking, what else could we do? I've mentioned we had a live stream in the past, inventive, creative, and progressive. Thanks for giving back. 100% unique rebel, and this is just the beginning, dude. In 2025, we're going to be giving away an entire solar system, like $20,000-$30,000 in value. And I'll get to how we're going to do that. I've been thinking about this for 6 months. So what we've decided to do is rather than make the YouTube channel, like the videos that you guys see, our only means of making income, which is giving me gray hair. Believe it or not, I used to have a full head of hair like a couple of years ago. That's not true. But this is stressful, right? Because my whole family, my whole life, we have 5 employees. All of this entire business operation that we've mentioned in the past, like 20 grand a month for us is about zero. Like if I made 20 grand, then we can pay everybody and I would have nothing left. And so that's zero, right? So it's just been too stressful. So what we're going to do is we've been thinking, what can we do? Our own product, our own service. What can we do instead of just promoting other companies, right? This video is brought to you by this company and that company. So we've decided that we're going to put our money where our mouth is. You guys know how much passion I have for electrification, for solar, sustainability, self-reliance, right? We're going to start an energy wing of our company. So Tubit Da Vinci Energy, or Tubit Energy for short. And we're in the process currently. We have an electrician on our staff. We've had an electrician for the last couple of months for all of our home installs and things that we do. But We're in the process of getting a contractor license, electrician license for our Tubit Da Vinci company, getting the insurance and getting everything else. And in early January, we're going to launch Tubit Da Vinci Energy, where we're going to be offering installing car chargers, heat pumps, service panel upgrades, right? Solar, batteries, whatever electrification, decarbonization initiative you have in mind, we're going to offer in Southern California. Obviously, that's how we're going to start. San Diego, Orange County, LA, that's going to be where we're going to focus. So if you've been thinking about getting a battery or getting an EV charger or doing a service panel upgrade or heat pumps, whatever under the sun you might want, and you need an electrician, we'll have that service available in early January. The reason why I'm doing this is because I've always struggled to find good electricians. The ones like the company that we hired to install my solar did a terrible job. I've had my electrician slowly, as I'm finding panels that are not online, go up and find that, wires were very poorly crimped, things were very poorly done, they were not cable managed properly, they're dangling on the roof, problem after problem after problem. So I find good help is hard to find. We're going to fix that. We're going to be, we'll be filming and documenting everything. We're going to do like home energy audits. We're going to check back in with you. I'm going to bring my engineering mind, what I do, to this business. That's what's going to make us stand apart from anybody else. And we're going to slowly roll out more features. Like for Tubi Da Vinci members, for example, maybe we're going to eventually have some hardware that can monitor your data, monitor your energy usage and your solar and everything else on your site, and give you guidance and insights and other things. Like we're going to just slowly roll it out, right? Obviously, to start, we're going to offer electrician services in about 2-3 months, hopefully, depending on the delays with the California licensing boards and everything else. Also, we're in the process of finishing up our very first course. So the other thing that people have been telling me for years is, why don't you have like 30 courses on all the stuff that you've learned and you do? And this is where the engineer scientist in me never feels like, I don't know anything yet. I need 10 more years to learn before I could give a course. Whereas every joker on the internet has a course based on, whatever. So I've decided we're going to do that as well. Our first course is going to be Electrician 101 for homeowners. So in this course, we literally wired an entire building. We filmed it all at great cost and time commitment. We've been working on this for, Juan, tell me, 3 months? 4 months. We've been working on this course for 4 months. You know me, if I want to make a course, it's going to be really all encompassing. It even has a little section where we install the car charger on my old neighbor's house. We did it for him for free in exchange for being able to show how it's all done with great insight, kind of the theory behind stuff, why the safety of all these electrician codes matters, and so much more. Again, we're not a licensing board. I can't make you an electrician if you buy this course, but I consider myself a Renaissance engineer. That's kind of how I've always been. I've rewired my old house. I've done all this work myself for years, right? I've just been doing this for so long. And normally when I hire electricians, I'll sit them down and correct them and tell them why things are done the way they are. So I'm going to provide that in a course. And there's going to be more to come. The very next course, so the first course will be just a Electrician 101, all the basic code requirements, all the ways to do things. And if you're curious about learning some of the stuff yourself, you're going to love it. The second thing is going to be how to install solar. So we have a building with a roof. We're ready to rock. We're going to try to source out everything to be as affordable as possible. Like try to find a website where you can just go in and buy it. They'll ship it to you for all the racking and hardware. That's the stage that we're on right now. Once we do that, it'll be how they get installed, how to pick panels, and we'll try to find sources to save you guys as much money as they can. Raymond says, good luck finding workers that care, because he's been an electrician for 47 years and the younger generation are tough. There's a shortage of electricians. Like that's a fact. So we've been making less videos. We've been a little bit quieter because I've been in training. Like I have my lead electrician in training with other people. We're spending a ton of money to get this off the ground. I'm hoping that the costs start slowing down a little bit and we can start making some money, but it should be really, really awesome. Okay. So we have courses coming up, how to install solar panels yourself. whether it's DC into a battery like an EcoFlow system or some other system, an inverter, or you want to go straight AC into your house, on grid, off grid. We're going to go through all of it, all the way to racking. And again, be the engineer in me, whenever I see people putting up solar, I always go up there and be like, why have you done this? Why have you put all the mount points on one rafter on a roof joist? Or why not distribute the load better? Why not do a million things? Um, so this combination of engineer plus tradesman component is gonna be pretty great. So we'll make some really good stuff, and we're gonna have courses on how to be a Renaissance engineer, if you will, like a modern day Renaissance man or woman, right? That's really where that name Tubit Da Vinci comes from. I've always prided myself on just being wildly curious and learning as much as I can about every little thing. I've built my entire kitchen from scratch, from every cabinet, starting with plywood to a finished kitchen. It took way too long. I'll probably never do that again. Probably couldn't afford to at this point in my life, but I've learned how to do so much. So we're going to be making courses on everything under the sun over the course of the next 12 months, and we'll have them all on tubitdavinci.com. Again, that'll be the only place we do anything. If we sell a product, it'll be there. If we have courses, if we have anything, we're not going to go to different places and stuff. We'll host it ourselves. So that will be coming soon. Dimebag says, I don't want to wreck my good roof. Exactly. I had solar in my old house for 12 years. It's perfect and leak proof. So, I mean, it's just a matter of doing things the right way and bringing that thought process to things. But for anybody who's curious about that sort of stuff, we've got a lot of really cool, exciting things coming. So I think that's pretty much it, right? Is there any other announcements? So quick recap. On-site videos. We're going to go meet people doing cool stuff. By the way, reach out to me, email me, LinkedIn, whatever platform you're on. Send me a message if there's like a cool company really making an impact. We really wish we could have gone to Energy X, which is a lithium extraction company that we met with, made a video about in Austin, Texas. They have a new 40,000 square foot factory. They've raised money. They're in the next stages. They're doing great. And I wish we could have made a follow-up video. It's just, it just didn't have the time. Thanksgiving's coming up and stuff. But we'll make content about what Harmony wind turbines. Yeah, we have that video. It's already up, Dimebags. You can check it out. So obviously we met with Harmony. We met with the owners, had lunch with them. We talked to them. They're two of the coolest people we've met this year. Wish them all the best. We really got to the bottom of that one. It's a good video. And I believe that one for the members has a longer cut, right? The Harmony one? Isn't the members cut longer for Harmony?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so the YouTube video is, 15, 18 minutes. The Harmony, the members cut is like 30 minutes. It has a lot of really cool stuff that we couldn't keep in the YouTube video. But we'll keep doing that. On-site stuff. 2, podcast. There's a million topics, and we're going to start with one of them here in a second that I want to talk about, but we just don't have a low effort format where we could make it work. And that's what this is going to be. So the At Odds podcast here on Tuid Da Vinci will be where we film and talk about many more topics and make sense of some of these things. There was a comment earlier that somebody said that it definitely feels like the world is at odds. I love that name. It stuck with me. It's been in my head for months. I haven't mentioned it till now, but we're launching that. Giveaways, we'll keep having them. Check out tubitdavinci.com. Get in there. It's one of the easiest ways, guys, because there's not a lot of activity. It's in the hundreds. Your odds of winning are insanely high. Ask the people who've won. So your odds are really high. We don't have millions of viewerships and stuff, so your odds are really good. And then we are making courses for all kinds of stuff. And if you have ideas for stuff, let us know. But we'll try to make courses for everything under the sun. And then finally, 2-bit energy, which we believe can be our main source of income, right? If we start making money by offering electrician services, then that changes the dynamics of what kinds of projects that I have to take on Tubit Da Vinci on the video side, right? Like I mentioned before, we have to take sponsorships and corporate deals to pay the bills. Otherwise, we would not be here. And I think that pressure can be alleviated by having 2-bit energy to be able to bolster some of that stuff. And also, Mark says video or audio. Great question, Mark. So it'll be a video podcast here on YouTube, and then we'll cut the audio and we'll post it to all the podcast platforms. I got a little bit of research to do there, but it should be there's like automated ways of doing that. It should be nice and easy. So you can consume it in any way you want. There will be some light visuals. We'll show my screen and things, but it should lend for a really nice audio format. Great question. And that's where we're at, guys. It's been a interesting year. It's been a kind of a rocky and tumultuous year, but I think that's kind of what happens when you start doing something for a long time. You kind of get to the ins and outs, and you realize, what comes next is something that you have to think about. Because I don't think we can only make videos only going forward. Because I don't think that I don't have that it factor. I don't appeal to people, or I'm not clickbaity enough to do this full time only. I think what I can do is I could love this and do this forever if I could just alleviate the pressure of having to make it pay for everything. Nothing takes the joy out of something like having it be your job, right? Think about anything that you love. Woodworking. You love woodworking. If I told you, all right, go make furniture for clients and stuff, you'll probably still like it, but it will not be the same. That's kind of what kind of ends up happening. Rob says OnlyFans. I'm on it, Rob. I don't know. Bald, brown, and bearded fetish people. Maybe. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe that's like a market of like 3 people. I guess you charge them enough. I guess it could work out. I don't know. But yes, love you guys. Appreciate you. And some of these ad odd podcasts will be live. So, or if not, we'll do this where after this live stream is done, we will delete all of this part out and it'll just be the podcast. So all the live stuff like that we're doing here is only for the people watching in the first like week or two. Then first week, and then we'll delete it and it'll just be a standalone podcast after that. Or something like that. And we will have guests and stuff. So if there's people you want me to bring on, people you want to hear from, let me know. Matt Farrell will be one of the very first. I'm sure that'll come up here. I'm looking to see if that comment has already passed. But Matt will be on. Some of our other friends that we've met here on YouTube. But we'll it'll be fun. It'll be really good. Royston says first guest. Let's see what he says. I'm curious. But we're kind of making a list. The reason why guests are so difficult, and I have a lot of respect, is it really requires kind of a full-time coordinator to email people, figure out people's schedule, and book them like a booker, like right, like the Tonight Show or the Daily Show. Those guys, there's a person whose whole life it is to book people. Claudia says Ben Sullins. Yeah, Ben is nearby. If that could be fun. We can talk about some stuff. Ben's been doing some really cool content on debunking EV lies and stuff. And I think that is a perfect segue to start. Let's see. So that's a perfect segue to start our podcast episode. Okay. So welcome to the At Odds podcast here on Tubit Da Vinci. I'm your host, Ricky. Thank you guys so much for joining. And this is going to be fun. So the big takeaway from one of my favorite shows, which concluded recently, which is Top Gear, and then later on the Grand Tour. I'm not sure if you guys are fans or not, but I love those men. Those old British men are some of my favorites, right? Jeremy Clarkson, James May, and Richard Hammond. Those 3 guys have been entertaining me for over 2 decades. I've been watching Top Gear since I was in college, and all 20 seasons, all the specials, everything else. It's been really good fun. The Grand Tour is officially over now. And they had their final season finale a couple of months ago. And during that episode, there was a really interesting part that I thought was worth talking about. It was around this point. They go back to where they started. Their their 4th special that they had ever done. And they go back to this place that was special to them. And in the car, Jeremy says something that really kind of made me wonder. Because I was hoping he would say that he just feels old. And it was right about here. They go back to this little island in the middle of the desert, the Magetakati. And they had done it 20 years before. They come back and they do it again. And my hope was that he would say, I'm old. I want to spend time with my family. And that's why we're stopping. The hamster. Yeah, Dimeback says that's Richard Hammond. The reality, though, is that's not what happened. During that episode, let me pull up exactly what he says here. It's interesting. So during that episode, Jeremy Clarkson revealed that he's just not interested in electric cars. They're just white goods, they're washing machines, they're microwave ovens. You can't redeem those, you can't enjoy them. They're just shit. that's his that's his quote. And that really, I was so sad to hear that because I was really just hoping that, I mean, he was just going to ride out into the sunset and it wasn't going to be that way. But he really does hate electric cars. And so that begs the question, or it warrants a little bit of an investigation into a simple question, which is, are electric vehicles killing car culture? And this is a debate that I have engaged in quite a bit. And I feel uniquely in a position to talk about it because I was a lifelong petrol head, gearhead, right? I loved cars my whole life since I was a kid. Um, some of the cars that I've always wanted to, one of my dream cars that I look at every so often is this. This is the first generation Acura NSX here in the Americas and the Honda NSX everywhere else. But this is a car that I absolutely adore. It was, designed by Pininfarina. It was built to take on Ferrari. It was the first all aluminum car. It was Honda's, one of the first dual overhead cam VTEC cars. It was all these amazing firsts, and I love that car. And these rare exotic cars are getting more valuable just because that's supply and demand for you. And so I come from a place of loving old gas cars, and I'm a huge, huge EV fan now, as you can imagine. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about this and kind of give you my take. And in the future, I might have an episode where I have some guests to further the debate. But I do completely understand this idea that people feel like electric vehicles are going to kill car culture. But I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. I think the downfall of car culture was actually started before the electric car. If you look at every OEM, every car company, they're all making really boring small crossover SUVs, right? Because people stopped buying fun, cool little cars. When I was in high school, I was shopping between a Honda Prelude, an Acura Integra, um, what else? Like a Nissan 300ZX or something, or a 240 SX. There were Mazda RX-7 was not in my price range or abilities, but there was a 3000 GT, the Mitsubishi Eclipse. There were so many amazing little, and for me, it's Japanese. I love Japanese cars. Um, there were just so many amazing options, but they're all gone. There's no more Eclipse, right? There's no Toyota Celica. The Supra exists, but I'm not a fan of the Supra because it has a BMW engine. If they had just made the Supra from the Mark IV Supra from back then, just make it again today, I would buy it tomorrow. But none of those cars really exist anymore. And I will say there's a couple of exceptions, and there's a place in my heart for these companies for this reason. The first is Mazda, who still makes the Miata, the MX-5, and that car comes in a manual transmission. Okay, and that's going to be a theme here in this podcast. The second is Toyota, who I actually have a lot of respect for because they brought back the GR86, which is like the AE86, the Trenio, which was a classic car from the drift shows, like Initial D. Thank you. And they brought it back, and they're making it now. In the example of Toyota, they partnered with Subaru to make the GR86. That way they could share platform cost and development costs with Subaru, because Subaru also has the BRZ. And in the case of the Supra, they shared the cost with BMW. Now, I think that might be the only way we can keep car culture alive is with collaborations between car companies, because I just don't know that the sales of the Supra, you can take all the Supras ever sold in the latest generation and all the GR86s, all the BRZs, you can add them all up and it would be a drop in the bucket compared to like Toyota Corolla sales, right? And so, unfortunately, I think as much as people blame EVs for the death of car culture, I think it's people's buying habits that's the death of car culture. Everyone is buying boring crossover SUVs that are not interesting, right? And if people keep doing that, then who would buy? I mean, who's Who's going to spend $800 million to develop the next Toyota Celica when no one will buy it? That's the problem, right? The second, okay, so that's the first one, is just consumer habits, right? Everybody, wants to take their dog and go to the beach, and that's really tough in a Celica, but it's really easy in a RAV4. That's why the RAV4 sells so well. The CRV, right? The Tesla Model Y now is one of the best-selling cars in the world as well. So that's the first reason. The second reason, in my opinion, is the death of the manual transmission. I'm really curious because this is starting as a live stream. Let me know how many of you guys are hardcore manual transmission fans. Another car that I've been eyeing for economic reasons, because the NSX is really expensive, but a car that I would kind of like to have, especially because its value for money is unmatched, is a Corvette. I also love the history of the Corvette being kind of the car for astronauts. That was always kind of a cool thing. And I like let's see, I'll pull up a Corvette picture. But the problem with the Corvette is that the new ones, the C8, are all automatic. And I actually had a chance to chat with somebody from GM about this, and he didn't make it seem like that's ever going to change anytime soon. So this is the C8 Corvette, which is very interesting to me because it was a mid-engine. So it's the very first Corvette. You can just tell from this shorter hood. Normally the Corvettes have this massive hood, but this was the very first mid-engine Corvette. But they screwed up one thing. In the pursuit of better Nürburgring times, a 0.8 millisecond quicker shift with dual clutch gearboxes, they've killed the manual transmissions. Whereas the very same car company in the previous generation, the C7, they did have a manual transmission, and that's the one I've been eyeing, even though I think it looks uglier and it's not as cool. But this is the C7 here. Now, this car you could have in a 7-speed, which I've never owned a 7-speed. I've owned a 5-speed and a 6-speed, never a 7. But this car could be had for 35 grand. And these cars the engine's big. It's not revving super high, or it's not really high compression ratios. It's not going to just blow apart. These are pretty bulletproof engines as far as fast cars go. And this is a car that I would have loved to have seen. And I do kind of shop them around. But this is kind of the end of the era. That C7 Corvette is possibly the last manual transmission Corvette. Raymond, and I think Raymond makes a great point. He says the manual transmission is a perfect millennial anti-theft system because nobody drives them anymore. Juan's got the little, so he 3D printed this. So this is, it just goes in your cup holder, and he put it one day in my Tesla so you could just shift and feel the gated feel of a manual transmission again. But there's something special about it. And it gets to why people love cars, which is they're engaging, right? So I would argue that car culture has been dying before the electric car for this reason, because engaging cars mean a manual transmission. It means that you can slip on your foot and have a bad shift and screw up your lap. But that car needs you, right? The argument about Teslas or electric vehicles in general they're so smart. You're literally expendable. You're just there for the ride, right? You just floor the accelerator pedal, and your car's gonna have a perfect launch every time. And it's true. I have a Tesla Model S Plaid. It requires no thinking. You could, my son, if he had a broomstick, could just push that pedal and he'll get a perfect launch each and every time. Whereas my first car was a 1993 Acura Integra. Let's see if I can pull up a picture. Well, my very first car was a 1993 Acura Integra with a manual transmission. It was roll-up windows, and I loved that thing. And I remember trying to get it to shift perfectly, and I was probably around 50%. 50% of the time, yeah. So this is the car. Mine was black, but this was my very first car. This generation of Acura Integra. And it was so special to me because it was a manual transmission. It was fun. It was lightweight. It was front wheel drive, so it wasn't perfect, but it was a Honda, so what do you expect? And it was really good fun. But in the pursuit of better lap times, right? Because eventually, and I kind of blame car magazines for this actually, because everyone started talking about Nürburgring times, right? Oh, the new 911 Turbo S has, GT3 has a lap time of this. And if you're trying to set Nürburgring lap times, then you want electric cars, because just wait, when we have like proper electric sports cars, the Rimac Navara, for example, when the Tesla Roadster comes out and the brakes and stuff are all fully sorted, they'll set every lap record, right? And so by doing that, we've removed any incentive for people to leave engagement. Engagement means that the driver is needed and that you might have a bad lap if you kind of you miss a shift, or you don't you red line and you hit the limiter and bounce a few times, and instead of shifting into the next gear or bringing it back out, and not keeping boost pressure if you have a turbo, those are what keep car drivers engaged. And I think I just saw a comment about a Blackwing. So Team Finn says you can get a Cadillac Blackwing edition in a manual. I'll tell you, General Motors is actually kind of cool for this reason. There's a couple, I think. There's the Blackwing, like CT. There's a couple of these the V-Spec Cadillacs that have manual transmissions, but they are absolutely a dying breed. Um, and so I think car magazines are just as guilty of this as electric cars or anything else, because they've glamorized Nürburgring lap times, and that really is the fall of engagement, because a manual transmission shift means that you have to push the clutch down, disengage the clutch pack. You have no output, no power going to the wheels for that second while you shift, and then re-engage the clutch. That's like, I don't know, half a second, a third of a second, compared to a dual clutch, which can spool up the next pack to the right speed and then just automatically switch you over and have like nearly instant shifts, right? One of my good friends, Yama, has a McLaren 570S, I think. It's a really fun car. They don't come in manual transmissions for that reason. They'd be way too slow, if that's what you're after. But in my mind, if at that point, why have no shifts? Like my Model S Plaid has zero shifting. It's even faster every time his McLaren has to do a dual clutch shift, and it's 0.1 seconds or point whatever it is. My car doesn't have any of that. So I think it's a little bit unfair to call the electric vehicle the reason for this demise. I think it's been going that direction forever. I think the RAV4 and the CRV and a lot of these crossover SUVs, they're appliances too. They're washing machines. Like, tell me that a Honda CRV isn't a washing machine or an appliance. It is. It's not fun to drive. They have CVT transmissions. They have a little bit of a drone. They don't even really properly shift. There's nothing fun about any of those cars. And if you're in the market for that car, you should have the Model Y instead. It's better in every way. The Tesla Model Y is insanely good. And it's why it's the best-selling car in the world at this point. It is so good at what it should be that there's no real competition. Now, you guys know, I've kind of talked about this before. I'm not a political person, but I do have. I mean, we all have biases and stuff. For me, like most engineers, I tend to be pretty libertarian. Like, I like small government and I like to have freedom. I like the market to decide things that it can. So I don't actually. I'm not in favor of electric vehicle mandates at all. I think people should make a car that's just better. My last car, my Tesla Model S, I had no tax credit. There was no savings of any kind. I went and bought a car for what it cost. End of transaction. Why did I do that? Because I wanted that car. I wanted a car with air suspension that could lift up to clear my driveway. I wanted 1,000 horsepower. Why? No smart reason. No reason. I just wanted something fun, right? I love the sense of speed once in a while, just flooring it on an on-ramp or something like that. Doesn't matter. And I bought that car. That car is just better. If you gave me a Mercedes S-Class, I would never take it. I would find it to be slow and expensive to maintain, $200 oil changes and all that stuff. No, thank you. The Model S is just better. The Model Y is just better. The Hyundai Ioniq 5, just better. It's just a better car. It doesn't need any other justification or any other sort of incentive. I also think that by having mandates, by making companies stop making gas cars, you're going to make people hate electric vehicles. It's kind of the opposite of what you intend, but that is the unintended consequence. And governments have a way of being walking unintentional consequences. A lot of that happens because You can't tell someone to, for example, I was at the NASCAR event. Juan, do you have any footage from NASCAR? Not ready. I was at the NASCAR championship in Phoenix with a company called ABB. They were showing off an electric NASCAR prototype. Okay.
I can put it on the back if you want.
Yeah, throw it on the TV in the back. There you go. While he's working. So while we were there, I chatted with people because Trump had just won the election. There was a the NASCAR crowd is a very conservative crowd, and I wanted to just kind of gauge what people were thinking. First, I was pretty surprised once people learned like no one's coming to take away your gas NASCAR. I have never been to a NASCAR race. It was my very first time. Yeah, there it is back there. There's the prototype. And so while I was out there, I I was blown away at how loud the cars are. But that is the one part that would be missing in electric races. But at the same time, by lap 5 or 6, everybody had muffs and headphones on, or earplugs, or some kind of noise, because you would lose your mind and your hearing after a couple of minutes of that. So I think the idea that all this sound is so great is not even true there. When I looked around, literally 80% of the people had ear protection on. So you paid money to go to a race to protect your hearing. I think we're going to be all right. But the minute people understood that this electric NASCAR was not coming to take your gas NASCAR away, it was just gauging interest to see if there's any interest for a future NASCAR E series, right? Where we have electric NASCARs run around. Is there interest? And that was it. And as soon as people understood that, they're like, okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, this is a cool looking thing. And they wanted to know more and they were interested. The minute we make people do things, that's when they're going to hate it. I've said for a long time that I actually think, again, not to get too political, but I'm sure we'll see what the comments look like here. But depending on your political views, I actually think the election of Donald Trump could accelerate the transition to electric vehicles, because I do believe there are a lot of people who would benefit from an electric vehicle. They'll save money. I've never owned a car that was cheaper to operate than my Model 3. My Model S will probably be a little bit more expensive, I would imagine, but the Model 3 and my wife's Model Y are the cheapest cars we've ever owned. And I think right now, if you bought a 3-year-old Model 3 or Model Y, if you can have one for like 25 grand, there's no better value on earth. It's the best you could, literally, you can't beat that value for a car that requires no maintenance, no smog checks, nothing else. But I think there are people who will not buy that car for political reasons. They've been told electric vehicles suck. Why? Oh, I don't know. They just suck. And those people might actually start to buy electric cars now, because Donald Trump had a Cybertruck in his Envoy recently, right? And as we start to see that Elon Musk is involved with him and they're normalizing it for other people, we might start to see half of the population who would have never considered one go drive a Hummer EV. The Hummer EV is pretty badass. If anybody's ever driven one, it is insane. It's a 9,000-pound tank with 800 horsepower, whatever it is. It's really bonkers in a positive way. And if people are into that, they might buy it. So we might start to see more people start to adopt on the adoption curve. We might be entering the thick of it now, because I do believe that there are people who wouldn't buy one that maybe might now. But getting back to the point of car culture, I think car culture is kind of an analog exercise, right? There are people, I know people, writers, who still write on a typewriter. They won't use a word processor because for them there's no urgency. They feel like they can just hit backspace or meander. They love the permanence of a typewriter. There are writers who write on a typewriter and then will have an assistant digitize it to take to their publishers. There are people who play music on vinyl, right? There are people, this goes on and on and on. There are a lot of people who like the old-fashioned analog approaches to how we did things. Watches. I recently watched a video about a person doing like a 10 or 20-year Rolex watch full renovation, taking everything apart with like a 300x magnification glass to get in there and take out the tiniest intricate pieces of amazing mechanical engineering you've ever seen, and clean it all up and put it back together. And there will be people who love a mechanical watch, right? With a counter spring that you have to wind or some other action. And that's fine. It doesn't, it doesn't, having digital watches or quartz powered watches shouldn't remove the need for that. Now, cars are different because your analog watch isn't polluting the environment or using up a finite resource. Your typewriter is no dirtier for the environment than a word processor on a laptop or something, right? The difference will be that cars are um, big machines that require huge amounts of fuel. And in the course of the world, I guess you could argue that petroleum is a renewable resource because it is. It came from plants and carbon life forms millions of years ago. The problem is that it takes millions of years to create from today's carbon to make fossil fuel. So it wouldn't be sustainable. And we're going through it pretty quick. And we need to figure out what comes next. And it's really important that people start to think about what comes next before it's too late. Otherwise, imagine if there starts to be oil shortages and people haven't figured out how to manufacture enough electric cars. If that day were to happen and you couldn't get a car, the economy, like the worldwide economy, would start to grind to a halt because we'd have shortages of transportation or trucks or whatever the case might be. So one thing that's really hard for people to fully understand is the Wayne Gretzky quote about skate to where the puck is headed, not to where it is. You have to kind of predict where the world is going to be and start planning for that, because otherwise you'll be caught, with your pants down. We need petroleum for a lot of things, and we will continue to do so. But electric vehicles will factor in. Now, will there be some things that are never electric? Maybe. Will there be an exemption for people who want to drive their 1992 Acura NSX on the weekends? I think there probably should be. This isn't like an all or nothing game. If we all changed our daily drivers to electric, I think that would make a huge impact, especially if you have a sedan. Trucks are still tough with current battery technologies. If you haul stuff a lot, it is still a difficult thing. But you got to just think, where will electric cars be in 10 years time? We're going to be in a completely different place. Christian says we still don't have bullet trains in the USA. We're way behind. Christian, so to that point, I think the bullet train is very similar to some of the other things in our American ethos. Americans just like car ownership much more than other countries do. There are people I know. When I met people in like Tokyo, Japan, not just Tokyo, other parts of Japan, not owning a car is the norm. When I was in Europe, not owning a car was the norm. I met with some people in Italy and Finland recently. None of them owned a car. Entire, organizations, companies, and their employees, none of them own cars. For them, it's not cool or interesting. This gets into the car culture question as well, because what I've mentioned first, I think the death of the manual transmission, right? The obsession with Nürburgring times kind of started to kill car culture. The fact that people are buying SUVs killed car culture. There's one more phenomenon, which is this newest generation, like the millennials. I guess I'm a millennial. I still love cars. Most people my age, I think, do. But I'm an older millennial. But like what's Gen Z, the newer, younger people are less and less into cars. They're more into technology, and cars aren't that interesting. When we were kids, the car was freedom, right? If I had a car, I could go somewhere. I could go to a ice cream parlor with my friends or something. That's something I couldn't do otherwise. But I think it's different now. I think people have Uber. I guess they get around different ways. It's not as important anymore. So there's a general disinterest in cars, and it has nothing. Again, it has. I think what people are doing is they're taking these different societal, cultural phenomena and blaming all of it on the electric car or the rise of the electric car, and that's probably not fair. So going to Jeremy's point, then, in this final season, by the way, there's this really cool part where they found the cars from all those years ago. So in their very first special, they had driven these different cars. James had a Mercedes. I can't remember what I think it was. And they found them laying here in the same place 20 years later. They're all just sitting here rusting away. What's interesting is that unlike the other two, Richard actually kept his car. He actually kept he called him Oliver, if you remember. But he had this little, I forget what it was, but he named it Oliver and he kept it. And he drives it around in London to this day. And it will change things. It is going to be a little bit different. And to Jeremy's point, there is probably less to be interested in, right? If you think about the technology of an internal combustion engine, it's wildly complicated and there's different approaches to doing it. Um, Not to say that there aren't different approaches to electric motors. There's axial flux, there's uh, traditional motors, there's, permanent magnet, there's AC inductance for there are some different types, but there's not a lot of subtlety, right? What made the like BMW, for example, use inline six engines, and they find that the smoothness from the inline six and the more linear torque distribution was something that they wanted. Subaru and Porsche use boxer engines, like horizontally opposed engines, for lower center of gravity. There's all these games that people used to play, and it was appreciated, right? It was this person building a car, and they had to make all these sacrifices and compromises, and to get what they wanted. Also, gasoline performance gasoline cars are wildly unreliable, and there's really no exception to this. If you push a internal combustion engine to its limit, you start, force induction or just start pushing more horsepower through it, they're not going to last. Like those NASCARs we won, the NASCARs that we watched go 300 laps. After that, they're probably going to go into a garage for hundreds of hours of maintenance. We just saw them running for 300 laps, but they have to go now and get a ton of things done. And there's so many little compromises. Like, do you want to be a high revving engine with, lower piston head speeds? Do you want to be a big bore? Do you want to go big block? Do you want to have push rods? Do you want to have springs? There's so many little engineering things, and I think that's what people fall in love with is when they're building cars. It was the mechanicalness of it, right? The electric motor, you're not going to have your hands greasy fixing it. They're a sealed machine that'll last a million miles. It's a completely different animal, and I think that's at the heart of his argument that internal combustion cars are appliances, because nobody takes their toaster out to tune it. Do you? Have you ever taken your toaster out, taken it all apart, and re-lubed it and changed the oil? No. He uses the term appliance in a negative, derogatory way, but for a daily driver car, isn't that kind of what you want? Something that has no maintenance. I've never had to just do anything but get in my car and drive. Make sure the tires are inflated. I've gotten flat tires. But other than that, you just drive it. And the car culture is going through the exercise, going through the ringer of all that maintenance to keep a car on the road. The Acura NSX, as pragmatic as I am, is probably as reliable a sports car as you can get. If you got something Italian or British, there's a comment about the British sports cars, they would be wildly unreliable, and you'd have to do a lot of work to keep them running, right? They're gonna have little pumps fail and little things that they're gonna have to be constantly tuned up. And if that's what you like, if you love the idea of, on the weekend, getting in your garage and just like fixing your car, doing your own work on your own car, that's all part of the nostalgia and the love affair that you have with your car. And I think we should preserve that. I don't know that we should. I got to think about that. Do we, currently old cars, that were built before a certain year in America don't even need to be smogged. So a lot of people will get cars of that age because they know they won't pass smog and just drive them. So we already have that today. In the future, do we just keep letting people drive gas cars? I think so, because they're going to be increasingly hard to find. They're going to be more off the road, and the bulk of cars will be electric. And one thing I think a lot of people who, we made a video about the Edison Motors truck that was a hybrid. And a lot of people were crapping on it, saying that hybrid sucks and gas sucks. You should never have gas. What you have to remember is that life here on this beautiful planet of ours is about balance. There's a level of carbon dioxide or nitrous oxide, some of these exhaust fumes from a gasoline engine, that the earth can absorb, right? Because, CO2 is literally plant food. That's not the problem. The problem is that we're cutting down forests, and then there's 8 billion of us burning gas by the mile, right? That's probably too much, because then you start to disrupt the greenhouse gas balance, and now the earth gets warmer. If we all turned our cars off and there was no emissions, we'd start recovering. And I don't know where the balance lies, but I can guarantee that the earth can handle a few million cars, gasoline powered cars. It would not matter. If, 10 billion gas cars on the road is a different story. So it comes down to the scale of it. And I'm all for preserving tradition and stuff. Christian says, "How about modern steam engines? Only require water." That comes down. A steam engine comes down to where the heat source comes from. So I don't know, maybe like a heat pump heating system to boil the water. Yeah, it depends. Um, the internal combustion engine is a marvelous and interesting thing. It is wildly finicky. I mean, think of it's kind of a Rube Goldberg machine in comparison to an electric motor. The electric motor is so elegant and simple and bulletproof. And the other mistake that I think car people miss is they think that internal combustion engines are better. They think, oh, your Tesla's, you think you're so fast, but it's nothing compared to a McLaren because the McLaren has a real gas engine. One thing you guys have to remember is that the largest power plants in the world, like the biggest engines, are all electric. They're diesel electric, meaning that a diesel generator, there's a little engine running a diesel generator to recharge a little battery pack to power an electric motor because no internal combustion engine can do what electric motors can. Electric motors can give you instant torque right away, hold largely full torque to red line, and do it for a million hours, for a million miles without even having to be unsealed, right? No gas engine can compete with that. The argument really ultimately has always been is it's internal combustion engine and gasoline, right? Internal combustion engine, power plant, gasoline, energy reserve source, right? And over here it's electric motor, the power plant, the motive force, and the batteries and electricity for storage. And there can be an argument for gasoline over batteries for storage because gasoline is so damn energy dense. It's incredible. It really is. That's what gives. That's what's given us this, century of gasoline. But we're now at a point where the batteries have gotten good enough to replace the daily driver car. I have a 300-mile range electric car. I need nothing more than that. I make no compromises. I charge at home. It costs me way less money, and it's just better. Now, I started this episode kind of saying that I'm probably a pretty good person to talk about this because I'm sitting here with two electric cars. For a daily driver, there's no planet, there's no way I would ever drive a gas car as my daily driver. There's no way. I'm not dealing with the maintenance. I'm not dealing with all that crap. I hate the smell of fumes. Remember, gasoline is wildly toxic, right? You guys remember the stories about people committing suicide by having a gas car running in a garage. This is our only planet. It's the same thing. It's a horrible thing. It really is, in terms of for your health. I get dizzy I don't feel very good in just a few minutes being near a gas station, honestly, or if like fumes hit the ground or, anything else, because gasoline will evaporate very quickly. And Slim Aaron says, I love diesel electric. Diesel electric is brilliant for that reason because it takes the diesel fuel for the storage component and then uses electric for the force component, right? For the power. It's a good combination. It literally serves us well. It finds its home in big ships, big trains, everything else in between. So it's a pretty tried and true formula. But at the same time, I kind of want an old manual transmission Japanese sports car. I do. I just do. I want to shift my own gears, feel the connection, feel like the car needs me because my Tesla does not need me, literally. I'm along for the ride. There's no theater, there's no theatrics, there's no skill. It's just mash your foot down, right? Whereas in that Acura NSX, there really is a sense of skill because the traction control systems are pretty limited, and those cars back then were just better. So, are electric vehicles destroying car culture? Not at all. Check out any modern car. Go check out a 2024 McLaren, right? Wildly electric. They're wildly complicated. They're not easy to work on. They have a million systems. They have traction controls and ABS and all these systems to keep the wheels planted, right? They're nothing like the cars used to be. So cars have gotten more digitized regardless of electric or gasoline. It's just the nature of technology. And I think that's what makes people want older cars again. I want a car that's just rear wheel drive, manual transmission, and minimal intervention, right? Very analog feeling, uh, hydraulic, minimally assisted power steering. I want to feel the road. I want to feel the feedback in the steering wheel, all that sort of stuff. And there should be a place for that. There should be no reason why people who love that sort of thing or have a weekend car shouldn't keep them around and drive them. I just think that it would be wildly expensive and silly to drive them as a daily driver. Like when you're sitting in traffic, right, in San Diego at 8 a.m. going to work, why the hell would you want a manual transmission? Get your Tesla Model S, put it in autopilot, and live your life and not deal with anything, right? So that's kind of my argument, is that technology potentially is killing car culture. The obsession with faster lap times is killing car culture. The fact that nobody wants to drive manual transmissions is killing car culture. And the fact that everyone's buying boring appliance crossover SUVs like the CRV and the RAV4, two of the best-selling SUVs on earth, especially in America. Those things are killing car culture as much as anything else. And yes, I do understand that there's less there's less decisions to make in the world of electric cars, right? A lot of these cars that are coming out now don't even make their own engine motors. They just buy them off the shelf. They're so easy. Get a motor controller. It's almost like Lego pieces. They're all just modular. Whereas like a gas car was so much more kind of custom and delicate is probably the word. So those things will change, but I ultimately always support freedom and choice. I hate mandates. I don't believe in any of them. I don't believe in electric vehicle mandates. Like mandates are for the lawyers and the politicians, and we don't need them. Let the engineers make great products. When you make a better product, people will just want it. The Hyundai Ioniq N, by the way, we drove in the Mojave Desert a couple weeks ago. Holy crap, that thing is fun. And it makes all these fake sounds, and it even blips the throttle on shifts, and it gives you the sensation of a gearbox, and it makes all these sounds. But the execution is wildly fun, and man, that car is a riot. If you're in the market, if you're like me, you were an old petrol head, you kind of are interested in electric, go drive a Hyundai Ioniq N. I think it's a wildly brilliant car. Um, and just generally be accepting. I'm a very accepting people of whatever your opinion is, right? I mean, I know people who hate electric cars. I know people who think they're cool, but they don't trust them. They wouldn't buy one. I know people who only drive electric cars. I have people in the whole spectrum of things, and I think it just takes time, right? And there should just be a lot of good options for people to decide. Because I'll tell you right now, in 2024, if you have a Camry or a Corolla or a BMW 3 Series, I cannot understand anybody who'd buy a BMW 3 Series today. There's zero reason for it. It's slower than like a Model 3. It's more expensive than a Model 3 Performance, and it's wildly unreliable and not attractive either. The style, they've kind of lost their way with style. So, and to call that a performance driver's car, you're wrong. It's a 4,000-pound boat. It weighs a ton. It's not dynamic. It's not anything. Like they've lost the magic, and that's what that's what kind of makes me mad. Is I feel like people are blaming electrification for everything, but it's like no one told you to make your cars so heavy. I used to have an E36 M3, one of my favorite cars of all time. Maybe I'll try to find a picture of it. I don't have one right now. It was an Arctic Silver, dove gray interior, two-door, E36, 1997 M3. I loved that thing. Loved it. I have had zero interest in any BMW since the E46. The E46 to the very next generation, I never had a chance to buy. I've always loved that car as well. But after that, BMW has completely lost its mind. It makes no sense. They're not attractive. They're not anything. If that's your idea of like a dynamic car culture car, I disagree. There's nothing car culture about that. Go buy a E46 M3 for 12 grand. And there will be problems with it. They had Vanos issues, and they had a bunch of little thrust bearing problems. They had a couple of little things, I think. But you could buy one of those for cheap and keep it as your weekend car. So I understand the argument about the appliance. I kind of get that. Yes, electric cars are kind of just plug and play. You're not really, you're not in there changing out the header. You're not, you're not putting a new exhaust on it. There's very few things. It's mostly software based. It's like programming, right? Tuning, things like that. But throttle mapping potentially. But I don't think we need to give anything up. Why not have the best of both worlds? Slim Aaron says the Hyundai N is a total blast. Um, yeah, we drove the Elantra N as well, and that was fun. But the boost delay when I come out of a corner or something, it just drove me nuts because I'm used to electric torque, right? That's my new threshold now. I compared to my normal cars, and the suspension was really good, handled pretty well, but the engine just lets that car down because it just takes way too long to spool up, and once it gets going, depending how long the track is, you're slowing down again. Um, Slim Aaron says Jaguar has lost its mind. 100% agree. I don't know if you guys have been following. They've been on the news of late on social media talking about their new brand redesign. Look, here's what I'll tell you about the At Odds podcast. You want to know why you want to listen? Here's why. Okay. Traditionally, I think engineers generally are very not maybe not all. I'm generalizing, but most engineers I know are libertarians for this reason. They believe in minimal. They no, engineering is probably the most important thing that we can do as a society. Jaguar's problems are not about brand or anything else. I love Jaguar's old logo. I love the Jaguar on the hood. I love the growl on the front. All of it. I loved all of it. Their problem is poor engineering. Their cars just aren't good enough. In a world where Honda and Toyota and Lexus exist, it's just their cars were not built well enough, right? And this is a problem that plagues a lot of the European makers, I think. Double down on engineering. Fire this whole marketing team, fire everybody involved, get the best engineers, build better cars. That's it. If they made a Jaguar XK or XF, I always like the XF, that form factor, that was as reliable as a Lexus, I'd buy it. But they don't. It's not hard. It's not complicated, right? Their cars are competing with the Japanese and the Germans, especially the Japanese, who I think make the best cars. You guys know I'm partial to Tesla, but the Japanese make the best cars. So if you're competing with Lexus, you gotta level up your game a little bit. Um, Paul says my F-150 has a range of 800 miles. I'm guessing he's got like a gas, like a diesel or something, which is awesome. I completely agree. If I were to buy a truck, I'm not sure I would buy an electric truck. I don't do truck things, so it wouldn't really matter, but I wouldn't want to be beholden to that range challenge. We should all get cars that make sense for us. I love the idea of car culture. I love car culture. I think we should love our cars. They shouldn't be appliances, right? Because um, while there's no real like smartphone culture, is there? But I do love iPhone, and there's people who love Android, and that's fine. But car culture is different. Car has always been a part of identity, and again, why Jaguar has kind of lost its mind. I watched that commercial. Like, I know zero human beings that look like this. I don't know who's behind their cars or what they're doing, but it doesn't make a lot of sense personally for me. But car culture is a big part of the American ethos. It's a part of our identity. We live in a huge country where there's just vaster distances. I will travel further than most Europeans will travel, ever, because my parents live in the same state as me in California, and I can drive for 500 miles and still be in California. In Europe, you drive 500 miles and you've crossed like three different countries, right? So we just drive a lot, and it's just a part of it. But ultimately, I believe that great engineering and great options will lead to a future where we have all these kinds of things. Will car culture be the same in the future? Man, I don't know. Because I do think electrification is just easier, right? The electric motor is just easier. You're not going to have this lead. What makes Toyota so much better than everybody else? They just make better internal combustion engines than everybody else. They just do, right? My favorite, so the NSX is one of my favorite cars of all time. The car that I would have in a heartbeat, I got to show you, is the Lexus LFA, okay? And I don't know if you guys know much about this car, but this was a car that was kind of plagued with some issues from the beginning. It was delayed and delayed. Finally, when Toyota unveiled it, they found it wasn't really, the performance wasn't where it needed to be, so they went back to the drawing board, made it all carbon fiber. Next thing you know, they engineered this thing to such a level that nobody could ever buy it, and they kind of realized it. It was 300 grand for a Lexus when you could have a Ferrari for that price, and that the value didn't add up. But what a lot of people don't realize is, if you're talking about engineering of this car, the engineering of the Toyota team versus a Ferrari, it's not close. These are the guys that make the best cars on earth. This car right here is one of my favorites, and the reason is the sound, the fury of that engine. It sounds like an F1 car. It revs to like 10 grand or something, right? It was built with it was built in a partnership with Yamaha. Some of the greatest Toyota motors of all time have come from, when Toyota and Yamaha get together, it's magic. It's straight magic what they do. And this car is really special. And they're unfortunately starting to get their time in the sun. People are starting to realize that they are really good and they're getting expensive. But yeah, we should just make great cars. And I don't think that the car culture is going to go anywhere. I think people will have gas cars. We'll keep them up. Maybe there's like shops that'll make parts for it. Yeah, Rob says Toyota and Yamaha make a beautiful baby. My God, yes. I kind of wish I could go talk to their CEOs and be like, hey, you two, move in together and do more good things. Make the next engine for the next GR86. Make the next engine for the Supra, not BMW. I don't want a BMW engine. I want a Toyota Yamaha creation, like the original. Anyway, there's a lot to love. There's a lot that will change, but ultimately, that's what we're going to be talking about, guys. And in the future, we'll have some guests on who maybe agree with me, maybe disagree with me, maybe you agree with me, maybe you disagree with me. I'm not sure. But I really appreciate taking out the time to see us whatever podcast format you're listening to. Thanks so much. We'll see you guys next week.